The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
On May 24th, 2006, in the historic Belvedere Hotel just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, a man is found dead from an apparent suicide. The clues he left behind and the events leading to his suicide raise many, many questions, which makes this one of the deepest and darkest mysteries in Maryland history. You're listening to the Mysterious Brews podcast, and tonight we bring you the case of Rey Rivera.
I think that living without answers is a really hard thing. Human beings, we like to put things in a box and kind of move on.
Allison Rivera has gone without answers about the death of her husband Rey for 14 years. It was May 2006. 32-year-old Rey Rivera's body was found in a meeting room of the Belvedere Hotel. A hole in the roof suggested he fell from a height. Mystery has prevailed ever since.
I kept saying there is something bigger. I'm going to find out.
This month sparked new interest in the case. The Netflix series, Unsolved Mysteries, featured the Rey Rivera case in its opening episode.
It's truly unbelievable.
It was the first time Allison spoke so publicly about her loss and frustration of not knowing what led to Rey's death.
There's an answer out there. Somebody knows something. And if that's just seeing him or the phone call that was made, there's an answer out there. And I thought that this would be a platform in which just lay the facts out and see if there's, somebody out there that.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, humid basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia. Well, Coachum?
It's definitely the summertime.
Yep, we in that pattern, bro. My
hey,
yard is
good though, man. I went one take, bro.
You did it one take, Coach. Man, I didn't want to say nothing. I saw you coming around turn 4, and I was like, he's whipping that pony. We're gonna make it.
I'm pretty proud of myself.
Yeah, I want to thank my sponsors, Team Me. I just get up in the morning, I piss
excellence, bro.
Well, since it is school's out for summer, there we go.
School's out for summer.
Yeah, if I'd have thought.
Time, man. May, it's June 2nd now. We're entering the fastest months of the year that come right after the longest month of the year. May is like 7 months.
January is 9 months long. May is 7 months long. And then June and July are 2 weeks each.
Hell yeah. Well, maybe less. It's ridiculous.
It is so stupid.
Luckily, my kids don't come back till September, but I got a second job. I'm going to do night school.
Sweet.
4 days a week. That starts in August. So, yeah, my summer's been going to be cut short, but I need money. I like it.
Yeah, kind of need it, because
money's good.
Helps everything go round. So, we released the upper tier exclusive episode that we had done. And if you're not a beer fun tier, you got a little taste of it. But,
man, I got some negative feedback.
What about?
From that episode. I don't want to say who said it, and I don't want to insult your lovely son, but somebody messaged me personally and said, I'd rather listen to Arlo by himself than whoever's doing it with him. I said, that's his son, man. That's not right. You shouldn't say that.
Well, he was 15 at the time, so.
Yeah, that's an old episode.
It was an old episode. So, where are we at? New patrons since we last came to you. We have one Cindy Forbes, and for some reason it did not take the first time she did it, so she had to use a new email address. So
wow.
she is there with the shout out to her. And then we have Ryan, the artist known as Ryan. Ryan had some problems upgrading, downgrading, regrading, but we're there now. And what's her name? All new patrons.
Well, we got some 5-star reviews, one of which you're going to have to explain to me because this is some sort of secret code that I don't understand about Necronomicon.
Yeah, it's a long-running bit, but go ahead.
Well, it says from the username from Fox Girl, or is it girl? It's Fox Girll. So I don't know if that means girl or girl.
Girl.
Anyway,
whatever, it don't matter.
From Fox Girl to everyone, 5 stars. What I heard from Mrs. Hildebrandt. So my grandma works at quote unquote the bank. And her boss's name is Mrs. Hildebrandt. Apparently, her boss is obsessed with 2 things: getting a hold of Mike Nomopod and listening to your Mysterious Brews podcast. I'm here to just give you guys a fair warning. She is a persistent old lady. Just watch out. LOL.
Yes, she is.
I'm a longtime Necronomicon fan, and I ran out of back episodes to listen to. I found you guys, and y'all are feeling and more that niche. And I found you listen to Dim Boys too, so I love that y'all are both educators too. Keep up what you're doing. Best, deuces.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So
now,
explain.
So Mrs. Hildebrandt.
I don't listen to Necronomicon. I've listened to a few episodes, but
Mrs. Hildebrandt is
like
a
big listener.
Running bit, and she always bothers Mike. And Dave is the one that does Mrs. Hildebrandt's voice. And Mrs. Hildebrandt is very persistent that she wants Mike's, college Mike's, thundering manhood, I guess would be the easiest way to do it. There's 4 or 5 episodes where Dave's been in the whiskey and he just keeps going. And man, they've had me crying before with the thing. I'll see if I can pull a clip of it next week. I'll see if I can pull a clip of it and then I'll send it to you. I don't want to infringe on their stuff, but I'll send it to you. So, that's a good one though, man.
I really don't listen to true crime podcasts anymore because I don't want to get in that situation where I almost copy them or emulate them or whatever. So I mostly stick to my old school wrestling podcasts. I don't watch wrestling now, but I was the big fan when I was a child, so I listened to them reminisce about the good old days.
I do like that Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast where he interviews them wrestlers.
I don't listen to that one.
It's pretty good.
Which is weird. I need to start. I listen to mostly Something to Wrestle With, Bruce Pritchard, and What Happened When with Tony Schiavone. Ooh, those are my 2 main podcasts that I listen to.
Those are good. They're
good ones. We got another one, though. We got one from username Arkansas with a W. RARKANSAW.
Arkansas.
Arkansas. 5 stars. Great podcast. You will never guess where I'm from. Arkansas. So many mysterious things happen here. I just finished listening to all your episodes, and it's hard to pick a favorite. You guys keep me entertained. Keep on keeping on. Well, and we certainly appreciate that. I don't understand how we got so damn popular in Arkansas.
Billie Jean.
We did 3 major cases from Arkansas that weren't really covered.
I was going to say, we're still the only one. Well, I take that back. We have been eclipsed by the great Catherine Townsend and her Helen Gone. She did a 2-episode thing on Billie Jean. So we for a long
friend of the show.
That's right. For a long time, we were the only people that ever discussed Billie Jean, and we had to revisit Billie Jean because we were green and didn't think anybody was listening, and said some stuff off the cuff. But I will say this:
you didn't. I did.
To this day, about every 2 weeks, somebody in Arkansas finds our episode and sends in either I knew her, I'm distantly related to her, or they have a Sheriff Baker story, and please don't use my name on air. And I'm like,
yeah, every single person that brings up Sheriff Baker is like, you guys really need to cover Sheriff Baker, but don't you fucking dare use my name. If you said, like, this man's been dead for what?
God, a while.
20 years?
20 plus years, I think.
And they're still scared of him. What kind of sway could this man possibly have had?
He can, from what I can gather, he controlled.
For people to still be like, don't you fucking dare.
Yeah, he controlled everything. But like we had said this before, though, he was one of those sheriffs that you knew was crooked. He had his hands in stuff. But if you had a problem and you were an average farmer in his county and you called him, hey, I got some, Jimmy Bob's cattle are getting over here and he won't fix his fence. Well, guess what? Sheriff Baker go pay Jimmy Bob a visit, and miraculously that fence would be taken care of. So he took care of the regular common folk, but he also kind of dabbled in some nefarious things. Speaking of nefarious, do not go to Perdido Key and order a beer at most restaurants. I was telling Coach off the air, there are several restaurants there that have taken beach inflation to a new level, and they don't even have taps at their bar. They say they have a full bar, but they do not have any tapped beer. They will charge you $7 a bottle and $6 a can, and $13 for a margarita. No bueno. No bueno.
That's no bueno.
No, it is not. However, they do have. They're saying,
man, inflation's out of control, man. Inflation. But like fucking corporations are posting
record profits,
like beyond record profits. Like they're making more. They're almost making double what they made before. It's not inflation. It's the fucking assholes charging more for shit.
Yep. Yeah, me and my wife went to lunch today, and we both had water and had lunch items, and it was $30 with a tip.
Dude, I went to Taco Bell yesterday. I ordered 3 tacos, and it was like $14, and I didn't even eat the third one.
That's no bueno too.
My dumbass is like, you can't have 3. You don't have that much room. And I'm like, I'll be fine. Nope, that bitch is in my fridge. It's gonna stay there for about a week until I throw it away.
Attaboy. All right, so since we are on the summer break, we're gonna have to put our noses to the grindstone. We're gonna start turning out some things for our patrons. We know that we have not done a post brew hangover in a while, so get ready for that, because there's lots of discussions we can have on a couple of cases we've covered.
Yeah, or they could just suggest something and we can bullshit for a while.
Well, I do have one, so that next one will probably be a user. And it's a solved case, so that's the only time you're going to find them if you own the Patreon.
If you want solved cases, which we have gotten over the years, tons of them. You should cover this case. It's like, well, it's solved. It's not mysterious if it's solved. Our whole shtick is shit that's not solved. Shit you can't prove. We don't know what happened. Even though, like, pretty much Zeb Quinn's been solved, if you believe the man in jail.
Rebecca Gould.
Rebecca Gould's been solved since we covered it. That's a good one. Jennifer Buchholz, very famous lady, gave us a little credit for helping solve that one. I don't believe it, but.
We were on the board, boys and girls, when they promoted the Jennifer Buchholz and George Jarrett did the Crime Con signature case, and it was Rebecca's case. Our names were on the big screen. I had a picture of it, and if I can find it again, by God, I'll put it back up there. But that's when we had only had like 100 episodes.
That's as famous as we were going to get.
Yeah, you ain't going to catch. For some reason, I just don't think they're going to let us on Podcast Row.
I don't think so, but maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe someday.
We've got a pretty good following.
We do. We have some guys out there playing the lottery that are trying to be the number one.
Dude, My sister won $200. She got 4 out of 6 numbers on the Mega Millions.
Woo-wee.
She was 2 numbers away from me telling everybody to fuck off.
All right, ladies and gents. So this case came to us because we were head scratching, and someone thought that it would be funny for us to do this. And I thought, ha ha ha, it's not going to be that bad. Boy, was I wrong. I think altogether 30 pages of notes. So yeah, we're not going to turn this bad boy out in one sitting. So this will be a 2-parter. But from the
person that suggested this case was laughing because she knew you were going to drive yourself crazy with notes.
Yep. I'm eyeballs deep, boys. Eyeballs deep. And go in to make matters worse, trying to finish the notes before I left on vacation. Microsoft Word decided to have a bug, and it would start slowing down and freezing and jumping and whatever. I don't know what it was. So I would have to type like hell for about 30 minutes. And then when it started to slow down, I would have to save it, back out of it, wait a few minutes, start it back up. So it was a pain in my ass. And Microsoft didn't fix that until Thursday of this past week, bastards. But anyway, we're talking about one Rey Rivera. And if you have watched the new Unsolved Mysteries reboot, it was the first episode in the reboot.
If you really want to know about this case, I would suggest going to Netflix and watching the first episode of Unsolved Mysteries because they covered it very well.
They did. Now, here's one thing that
Certainly a mystery, though.
Yes. There's one thing I did notice about the Unsolved Mysteries episode. They didn't do a whole lot. And I know that the show itself, the older shows, didn't do a whole lot either. They kind of put the facts out there, hope for somebody would step forward. But they didn't do. I noticed after going through my notes, I watched that episode. They didn't do a whole lot to ruffle the feathers. Like they could have really pounded the Baltimore PD, but they didn't. They got the old detective, let him kind of play politically correct in his feelings, and then that was it. So there's a lot of shit that we're going to get into outside of what is on there. So buckle up, Buttercup. Rey Omar Rivera was born on June 10th, 1973 on an Air Force base in Madrid, Spain, where his father, Angel Rivera, was stationed. Now, Rey's mother and father, Angel and Maria, had come to the United States from Puerto Rico. Maria made sure their children embraced their heritage and culture, and she made sure to instill a sense of pride for their Puerto Rican heritage. Rey had an older brother, Angel Jr., and a younger sister named Elena. Now, Angel Sr. and Maria made sure the children also embraced their beliefs in God, more specifically Catholicism. So as Rey grew older, he became more spiritual, but less religious. And I think a lot of people can kind of, see that because of all the shit that's going on with the church. You can be a very spiritual person. You can believe in the Bible and a higher power and just not go to church because, leave it up to us humans. We will screw up a good thing. But anyway, now Rey never wavered from his belief that family came first. And when Angel Sr. retired from the Air Force, the family moved to Winter Park, Florida, which is a suburb of Orlando. So as a child, Rey, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I didn't say nothing.
I thought you was taking one.
Speaking of Orlando, though, my sister wants me to go to. She wants to make a pilgrimage to Orlando simply because they have a food truck park with like 65 food trucks.
Hell yeah, because there's a food truck park in St. Augustine, and it's got, there's two. The one has
That's what
8.
I'm saying. St. Augustine, is it? Well, no, it's Kissimmee that's next to Orlando. Never mind. Yeah. I'm sorry.
There's 8 at one of the ones in St. Augustine, and then there's another one that's got 5, and I've yet to find any of those food trucks that serves shitty food.
65, bro.
I'm sure you can find one that sucks.
And most of them are Cuban, though. There's 30 out of the 65 are Cuban food.
There you go. Just don't
I've
ask
never
for
had Cuban food, but I'm willing.
Good, man. It's so good. It's so good, senor. Okay. So as a child, Ray had a strong personality and he had an intense passion for learning. He was curious about everything. When he became interested in something, he would immerse himself into that subject until he had learned everything there was to learn. He seemed to have a photographic memory for things that he was interested in. He was also a natural when it came to music. While his younger sister took piano lessons, he would listen in and was able to learn to play the songs on the piano just by ear. While he was visiting family in Puerto Rico, he became interested in the cuatro. The cuatro is a Spanish-type guitar, but it looks like a big old violin that has 10 strings. Ray loved the sound of this instrument so much he made it his goal to learn how to play it. So he was also very, very athletic. He was a member of his high school baseball and swimming teams, but loved swimming the most. His junior year in high school, he was offered the opportunity to attend the Olympic camp at UC Berkeley in California, and it was there that Ray started playing water polo.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And actually, it's not there that he started playing. He had played water polo in Winter Park for his high school and was asked to go, and it kind of revitalized him, made it more serious. Hey, I'm actually pretty good at this. This might be something I can really sink my teeth into. In his senior year, he was offered a full scholarship to the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California. He was on his way to fulfilling a dream of making a career in something that he loved, and he started college in the fall of 1992 and majored in English. Ray was a very creative person, and he loved to write. Specifically, he enjoyed writing screenplays and hoped one day to break into the entertainment industry as a screenwriter. He loved movies. He was always watching them, talking about them, analyzing them, quoting them, creating his own screenplays, etc., etc. He was also just an all-around good guy. He was very tall, dark-complected, handsome. He was a good-looking man. He was charismatic and always had a big smile. Now, his sense of humor was well-known or notoriously known among his friends and family. They said he always had a clever joke and was always laughing and trying to make other people laugh as well. Ray was described as universally well-liked, sensitive, hilarious, thoughtful. And one of his swim coaches, his college swim coaches, remembers him coming over to his house one night, and Ray decided that it would be a good idea to alphabetize his coach's record collection, just because he thought that the coach would enjoy his collection even more if it was alphabetized. College was a good time for Ray. He would go on to score 100 goals for his water polo team. He worked on and sharpened his writing skills, and in 1994, he was chosen to compete in the Summer Olympic Festival in St. Louis, Michigan. Now, if you are unfamiliar with such festival, it is basically a precursor to anyone wanting to try to make the Olympics. And it is actually put on by the U.S. Olympic Committee in the years between the Olympic Games. It's supposed to give athletes a small taste of how the Olympics are really handled. So that year it took place between July 1st and July 10th, and it was a big deal for any aspiring Olympian because the next coming Olympics would be in Atlanta in just 2 years. The hope for any aspiring Olympian was to stand out at this festival and get an invitation to join the U.S. Olympic team. So when Ray graduated from college in 1996, he was hired by the Royal Spanish Swimming Federation to be part of their water polo team, mostly because he spoke fluent Spanish. Ray would use this opportunity to hone his skills and even earn drinking money while he was in Spain by giving English lessons. Look at him being all like whatever you call entrepreneurial spirit there.
Well, I just know that college kids will do anything for drinking money.
And he's teaching Spanish kids how to speak English.
Dude, I became a fucking trivia expert just to get bar dollars to drink in college. Like, to the point where I tried out for fucking Jeopardy at one point.
That a boy.
I made it, but I didn't get called to be a contestant. But I took like 3 tests, 2 online tests, 1 in-person test, and then had an actual audition. I had to go to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And wore your damn New York Giants jersey, didn't you?
I needed to, but I didn't have the balls to do it. I am still a Giants fan, though, bro. They're the greatest football team of all time, except for the Tennessee Volunteers.
Oh, good God. Here we go.
But no, I made the contestant pool, but
just didn't get called to the major leagues, did you?
Your name. What?
Didn't get called up to the majors, did you?
I didn't. I'd had to pay my own way to Los Angeles and sit there and wait and hope that I would be a contestant.
You was like, no, hopes and dreams. I'd rather shit in my hands and clap and waste that money.
They never called me, man. I would have been good.
Yes, sir, you would have. Yes, sir, you would.
But like, I started watching Jeopardy Masters, where they take like the people that won a whole bunch, you know, the really, really good ones. And I was watching that show, and I didn't know a single answer.
Damn, boy.
Nothing. I was like, good Lord, they've upped the difficulty of these questions. Either that or I'm just getting dumber, which is very possible.
It could be both.
Maybe.
I'm going to go with the former.
I'm getting very old. I'm just a grandpa at this point.
Yeah. Tell me about the good old days. All right, so while in Spain, Ray got the call he had been waiting for. He had been selected to be part of the U.S. water polo Olympic team. Immediately, he got on a plane, flew to L.A. to start training. His dreams seemed to be coming true. But unfortunately, despite all of his hard work and time spent training, Ray was cut from the team 2 weeks before they would leave for Atlanta. Now, it is rumored that he had some sort of argument or falling out with his coach. Those close to him said it was the biggest regret of his life. Ray would stay in California and started placing all of his efforts into writing a screenplay that he could shop to producers. But he also had to afford living in California, which is difficult to say the least. He worked multiple jobs to keep his head above water and took a job teaching Spanish at John Burroughs High School in Burbank. There, he would coach the school's swimming and water polo teams. His students loved him, and one of them remembered that Ray was always pushing him to his limits and supported him wholeheartedly. The student said, quote, "He is the only person who ever understood what drove me to swim and used that knowledge to mold me into a better athlete, but more importantly, a better individual. Ray was always there to pick me up when I was down and offered me words of encouragement," end quote.
That's some high praise, man. Seriously.
Yes, it is.
That's something all coaches strive for, is for somebody to look back and think that about them.
Ray decided to take a third job working in the admissions office at the Los Angeles Film School, where he was able to also take classes. The classes helped him find his voice as a writer, and he created his first complete screenplay. It was a fantastic horror story about a Puerto Rican piano player titled Virtuoso. Now, he began showing it to different studios and producers, and he found a production design company who loved it. They wanted to pursue the possibility of trying to bring it to the screen. So even after his setback with the Olympic team, Ray knew he still had a chance at fulfilling his potential, and things were starting to get back on track. In the year 2000, Ray would meet a young woman named Allison Jones through a mutual friend. Allison was also athletic and had been on her basketball, soccer, volleyball, and cross-country teams at her high school at Cherry Hills Village in Colorado. She had attended college at UCLA and graduated with a bachelor's degree in accounting and business communications. She worked for a while helping different businesses manage their budgets. She, too, was interested in writing, so it's not a surprise that when Ray met her, the connection would be instantaneous. They were living in California together and working very hard. However, neither one was making enough money to live comfortably, especially in Los Angeles. Now, despite being financially strapped, Ray knew he had found the one, and he proposed to Allison in 2004. Now, neither Allison nor Ray knew how they were going to be able to afford a wedding to start a family with their current financial circumstances. So enter one Frank Porter Stansbury, or better known as Porter Stansbury.
Yes, quite.
Porter and Ray.
It honestly just sounds like a rich man's name, you know?
Yes, it does.
Porter
Stansbury, sir. Now, Porter and Ray were high school best friends and were thick as thieves back in the day. Porter and Ray had played water polo together at Winter Park, and several people have described their friendship as basically Porter idolizing Ray. Ray was tall, strong, handsome, dark-complected, extremely athletic, pretty much good at everything he put his mind to. Porter, on the other hand, was about a B student and not the standout that Ray was. Porter attended the University of Florida and graduated with a degree in political science, which he later claimed was an incredibly useless degree. Porter knew he wanted to be successful, and in order to do that, he'd have to work extremely hard to make it happen. Through sheer will, determination, and grit, he would make it. Porter would appear on the Self-Made Man podcast in 2015, where he claimed that he started his business at the kitchen table of a third-floor walk-up in Baltimore's most notorious slum, using only his smarts and a borrowed laptop. After he had graduated from college, Porter had worked for a research company in Florida as a junior analyst.
A junior.
But in 1996, this company was bought out by a rival client named Mr. William Bonner. Now, Porter would claim that Mr. Bonner fired everyone except for him and another man named Steve. Porter and Steve went to work for Bonner's company, Agora, in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, according to the Agora financial website, one William Bonner created Agora Incorporated in 1978. Agora was labeled as a small publishing company based in Washington, D.C., and has since grown to become one of the largest and most successful consumer newsletter publishers in the world. Since founding Agora, Mr. Bonner has worked steadily to turn it into a small or medium-sized company that has locations and activities in the U.S. and abroad. Since 1978, Bill Bonner and his team have exposed and predicted the world's most disruptive events. It is rumored to be one of the largest underground research network companies on the planet. Now, allegedly, more people follow Agora's work every day than they tune in to CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News combined.
Oh, really?
That is what they are alleging.
That's a large audience.
Quite the number. Mr. Bonner is also the co-founder of Bonner and Partners, which publishes newsletters aptly named the Bill Bonner Letter. It is unlike anything else published in America today. In the newsletter, Mr. Bonner shares his best ideas, insights, and wisdom about business relationships, investments, trends, developments, ideas, and more. Bill Bonner has started businesses all over the world, made investments in 5 continents, owns and runs more than a dozen companies, owns hundreds of acres of land, and travels well over 100,000 air miles every year.
Only 5 continents? What a loser.
You got to get them other 2 there, bub. Got to get there.
Well, I mean, Antarctica you can't do, but I mean, which one?
The hell
which
you
of
can?
the other 6 does he not have businesses in? I bet it's Australia.
I bet it's the Horn of Africa. Well, it could be Australia. Penal colony, you know.
Well, if you ask the flat earthers, Australia doesn't exist.
That's right. Cody, you are not a figment of our imagination. Old Billy Boy also co-wrote the New York Times best-selling books, Financial Recording Day and Empire of Debt. Agora currently has publishing offices in 8 different countries on 6 different continents. William Bonner attended Georgetown University Law School before working at the National Taxpayers Union, which is a conservative advocacy group that works to show American taxpayers how taxes, government spending, and regulations affect them. Bonner started off with one flagship publication in 1979 called International Living. It was a newsletter sent out monthly that gave its subscribers details on the best places in the world to live, retire, travel, and invest. Bonner is a big advocate of owning properties in different countries. He was the proud owner of 2 chateaux in France and a ranch in Argentina, you mere peasants.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely peasants. I can barely afford, the property tax of my house, much less own a ranch in Argentina.
Or 2 chateaux in France.
I mean, I think we all have at least 1 chateau in France.
I have 2 in Gatlinburg, if that helps. All right, so Porter only worked for Agora for 2 years before he was fired for, wait for it, insubordination. Apparently, he was allergic to people telling him what to do and when to do it.
Oh, I am too.
However, after leaving Agora, Mr. Stansbury was offered a job as a junior editor of the Oxford Club. Now, the Oxford Club just happens to be a subsidiary of Agora. So the Oxford Club was known as the Royal Society of Liechtenstein when it first opened in Boca Raton, Florida. The company was founded by 2 men, Joe Nadell and Mark Ford. Now, Mark Ford was just, he just happened to be a friend of Porter's. Now, this may come as a shock, but the company didn't actually have anything to do with the Principality of Liechtenstein. It was I find that very hard to believe. Wait for it. With a office in Boca Raton, it was a direct mail scheme.
No.
I know it's hard to believe, man.
I wouldn't have guessed that. Never.
Not out of Boca Raton.
No. Florida's always on the up and up.
Now
there's never been anything sketchy ever come out of Florida.
Never.
You can't convince me that anything ever. There's no such thing as Florida Man.
No. Or Florida Man beer. There's a Florida Man IPA, and I was going to bring some home, but let me tell you, if we're going to make it in this world, we're going to have to open up a craft brew beer store in Florida because it does not exist.
There's no craft beer stores in Florida?
Fuck no.
Oh,
well, actually, hold on. There probably are, but where I was at along the Panhandle from Perdido Key to Orange Beach to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and on down, ne'er a one.
I'm hopefully going to go to Gulf Shores pretty soon.
It's a nice place, mate. It's a nice place.
Go to Floribama.
It's not that nice. It's overrated.
Floribama?
Yeah.
Listen, I love a good dive bar. And that is the quintessential dive bar.
But it's been commercialized. It's lost its dive bar.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fucking shame.
It is. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a good time. Check out off your bucket list. I would recommend going on a Wednesday because it's not as crowded. But it is. I mean, it's a decent little thing, but it's not. After it was over, I was like, eh.
No, I'm good. You convinced me. I'm not going.
All right, so
you can't commercialize a fucking dive, like the quintessential dive bar. The one time I went, man, that place was like, I would have imagined, I would have been surprised if like a donkey walked through. Like just a random donkey. Oh, that's Bill. Don't worry about him. He just wants peanuts or some shit. It was amazing. I loved it.
There's a Waffle House across the street from the one in Orange Beach. Okay, so the Oxford Club would send out mass mailings to people with an included cassette tape that the recipients would listen to. On the tape, they would hear a man with a British accent that would tell them he was part of a unique and secret society whose purpose was to amass substantial wealth for all of its members. This man would tell the listener that if they were interested in joining the society, they needed to send an application and a check for $100. $100 is all it takes. And it just so happened to be a Zurich address. There's nothing fishy going on. I mean, it's checked every box. Direct mailing, Boca Raton, British accent. Are you lonely?
Yes, sir. Are you sitting naked in a beanbag chair eating Cheetos?
It's like he knows me.
Do you want to send me $1,000? Close.
Must be a lot of lonely people out there. All right, so the tape would end with the instruction to please destroy this tape now. The man on the tape said that if you were receiving this, it was because your name had been chosen from a select group of active investors and financial experts for an invitation to become a member into what was, quote, fast becoming the world's most exclusive investment organization, end quote. Just like the Fight Club, the one rule about Royal Society of Liechtenstein was you couldn't talk about it. You couldn't tell anyone about this super secret, super exclusive group that wanted to make you a millionaire. If you disregarded this one rule, you would never hear from them again.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, this was the 1980s, before the time of the internet, and there were a lot of Nigerian princes that needed people's help.
Dude, they still contact me. I really want to help them because they tell me that if I do, they'll send me millions of dollars.
I don't want millions. Just send me $500,000. That's all I need.
As long as I send them Walmart gift cards.
Gas cards. So someone got one of those tapes and broke the one rule of Fight Club and talked about it. It was obviously someone with a little bit of pull because the Royal Society of Liechtenstein caught the attention of the Beta Business Bureau, and both the New York Times and the Boston Globe printed several stories on Mr. Joe Nadell. They specifically centered on a large scam having to do with a company called Goldcore. In a newsletter from the Royal Society of Liechtenstein, Nadell praised the company who had claimed to have invented a process in which they could turn a 20-mile strip of black volcanic Costa Rican beach sand into gold. He wrote, quote, "The sands that are removed from the beach are replenished by tidal action only after a few days," end quote. So we're not killing the planet, turning beach sand into gold. It's just, we're just taking it. In a couple of days, it replenishes itself. Goldcore would go on and go as far as to fly potential investors to said beach in private jets in order for them to watch the process for themselves. I know this is hard to believe, but none of this shit was true. And in August of 1981, the president of Goldcorp was found in his home with a bullet behind his left ear. It was estimated that 3,000 investors lost at least $50 million. A federal judge. Lord. Yes, sir. And that's 1980 money. A federal judge ordered Goldcore representative Carl Martin to return $10.8 million to the bamboozled investors. Only a fifth. They only had to repay a fifth. If I can make 50 and have to give you 10.9, let's just say 11, fuck it, let's do it. Joe Nadell was only ordered to refund $400,000 to the same investors for his part in promoting the scam. After this scandal, the Royal Society of Liechtenstein became the Passport Club. It was then purchased by Agora. The Passport Club sold investment seminars on how to set up bank accounts in places like Switzerland and Hong Kong. Basically, they were teaching people how to set up offshore bank accounts to avoid paying taxes. In fact, the working name of the Passport Club had been the Tax Avoidance Digest. No shit, I'm not making this up. It's right there in your face.
That's literally their name?
Yes. In 1991, the name was changed for the third time to the Oxford Club. a name that, according to their website, reflected, quote, their love of time-tested values, a long-term wealth fraternity with independent-minded, intelligent people, bringing forth a European sensibility for global investing, high-end education, experience, old-world elegance, and charm. Joe Nadell quietly bowed out, but Mark Forward stayed on as executive consultant. Funny thing is, he changed his name to one Michael Masterson. Mark was not only Porter's friend and the person who brought him into the Oxford Club circle, he was also Porter's mentor. Someone that Porter looked up to and wanted to learn from. Keep that in mind, ladies and gents. Keep that in mind. Now, I am approximately 1,000% sure that the Oxford Club did not keep any of the old scam artist techniques from the company's time as Royal Society of Liechtenstein. You know, they licked their wounds, saw the error of their ways, and like parted. We have turned over a new leaf. We are reborn. Now, companies are constantly bought and gutted, and I'm pretty sure this is what happened. There has been zero evidence that the Oxford Club has done anything illegal. After a year with the Oxford Club, young Porter was given permission to strike out on his own and launch his own Agora subsidiary, which he initially named Pirate Investor LLC. It was promoted as a subscription-based publisher of financial information and software serving millions of investors around the world. Porter prided himself on hiring based on character and resourcefulness. He wasn't interested in hiring the average Joe Schmo with a degree. No. He wasn't even hiring people that had experience. He wanted people to work for him who had the common sense and were fun to be around, even if they had no knowledge on how to manage money.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yep. As I see it.
What could go wrong?
Old Porter called a bunch of his friends and said, hey, man, I just watched this old boy embezzle $50 million. They investigated him. He only had to pay back a fifth of it. Y'all in? So in May 2002, Porter sent out a super duper insider tip to his subscribers using the alias J. McDaniel. This tip was a teaser telling people that he had inside information that a stock in a specific company was about to skyrocket. And if they wanted the name of the company and the details, they'd have to pay an additional $1,000 on top of what they were already paying to receive the monthly newsletter. Only then would they get a separate email with all the details, and then they could do with it however they pleased. 800,000 people were sent this email, and 1,217 people paid the extra $1,000 so they could get the information to purchase the stocks. It is reported that Pirate Investor LLC made over $1.2 million just from this one email. $200,000 of that went into Porter Stansberry's very own pockets. In an internal company memo, Porter told his employees, quote, if we are able to sell this to 250 people and it works, we'll be able to change almost whatever we want next time. Or charge whatever we want next time. Now, this may come as a shock, but the insider tip did not pan out. See, what had happened was I got this call, and it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, so we're just going to have to keep your money. Investors lost a lot of money and were so thrilled about it that they filed numerous complaints with the SEC. That's the not the Southeastern Conference. That's the Securities Exchange Commission.
Well, you might as well, appeal to the Southeastern Conference.
Might as well. I mean, hell, you done lost a shit ton of money. We'll see who can get us our money back. The SEC investigated and filed a lawsuit charging Porter and his company with securities fraud in 2003. This was the company that Porter Stansberry created at his kitchen table using a borrowed laptop. Remember, the same one that made him a self-made man and catapulted him into greatness and unimaginable wealth. Porter's company released a statement and asked the SEC to drop their lawsuit. Their statement was that Porter had a First Amendment right to offer any tips that he thought would benefit people reading his newsletter. See, the SEC and the federal judge overseeing these proceedings said, no, Chief, that's not how that shit works. You cannot purposefully fleece people out of their life savings and call it your First Amendment right, you dumbass.
I don't know, man. I mean,
it was worth a shot.
You can definitely claim First Amendment rights. I mean, it's not my fault they were swindled out of their savings.
Had nothing to do with me saying, hey, if you give me an extra $1,000, I'll give you these tips. You're going to be a millionaire.
Yeah, I was just saying. I just said things.
If you want to hear, I've got like this 2-minute long clip of Porter talking at like the 2017 Stansbury Conference and Alliance meeting. You'll be bored to tears, but we may play it later. But he comes across as a pompous ass. So, actually, hell, this is, you need to hear the first part of this. I'm not lying.
Right, play it, bro.
Because this just kind of solidifies what I don't know. Here we go.
We're here to talk about a really crass subject that's very impolite, and that's money. And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, we didn't talk about money, and we didn't like to be around people who talked about money. So for the next, 3 days, we're going to be sitting here talking about money. And it's a little unpleasant, I think.
Yeah, I mean, talking about money, it's unpleasant. We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, only people that don't like to talk about money are the people that fucking have it.
Yep.
Oh, we don't talk about money at this table.
Yeah. Yeah, that clip goes on and on to tell about, basically you can get on YouTube and look up 2017 Stansbury Conference and Alliance meeting. And I think there's a guy on there that has actually picked apart all the bullshit that comes out of Porter's mouth. But anyway, I digress. In 2004, Porter reached out to Rey and offered him a job as a writer at this financial newsletter, Pirate Investor LLC. The offer was dripping with the selling point that Rey would have the same potential at making a lot of money. This job offer could not have come at a better time. Remember, Rey and Allison had just gotten engaged. They were struggling financially in Los Angeles. They wanted to buy a home. They wanted to start a family. They wanted to have a life. Rey wanted to give Allison the wedding of her dreams. At first, Porter wanted Rey's help for a small project that would keep him in Baltimore for only 30 days, or maybe a little more. He assured Rey there was no reason to uproot Allison from her job for such a short time period. So, Rey flew to Baltimore alone and stayed at the Peabody Hotel. Now, the Peabody was about a mile north of Agora headquarters in the Mount Vernon area of Baltimore. The headquarters of Agora and several of its subsidiaries consist of several old mansions that William Bonner had purchased and refurbished. There were 4 locations: the former Marburg Mansion at 14 West Mount Vernon Place, the former Christian Science Building located at 702 Cathedral Street, the former headquarters of the Episcopal Diocese of Maryland located at 105 West Monument Street, and the former Grand Lodge of the Order of the Sons of Italy located at 808 St. Paul Street. Now, the former Grand Lodge is where the main company, Agora, was housed. The other buildings housed the majority of Agora's 60 subsidiaries. Rey didn't know anything about money management, stocks, bonds, any of that shit. In fact, he was notoriously bad with money. Allison claimed that for most of his life, Rey only used cash to purchase what he needed, because it's pretty hard to spend money you don't have when you're using cash. Rey had just gotten his first credit card, and she thought this made him feel as if he could spend more, which he did. He ended up taking the job with Porter thinking it would be short-term and a quick way to make some much-needed money. Just like a lot of things in Porter's past, this quick project turned into more work than Rey originally thought. The 30 days turned into 90 days. Rey would fly back and see Allison in L.A. once a month, and she would come visit him in Baltimore when she could get away from her own job, which had her traveling around the traveling around the country. So for a newly engaged couple who loved each other as much as Allison and Rey did, being apart was extremely difficult on the two. Additionally, a normally social Rey was having a hard time making friends in Baltimore. He was familiar with most of the people who worked at the Oxford Club and Agora in general since he had gone to high school with a few of them. Ray didn't feel that he and these people had all that much in common besides a high school history. Now, Ray and Allison were very family focused, while his co-workers seemed kind of obsessed with money. Ray was not in Baltimore to get rich quick. He was just there to make enough to provide Allison with a wedding she would never forget. Allison was getting impatient with the thought of Ray being in Baltimore for much longer than they had originally planned. She didn't feel like he was very happy writing about money. She also knew Ray loved being in the sunshine and close to the ocean, and Baltimore, that ain't that place, Bubba. She saw Ray settling down back in L.A., not Baltimore. After 3 months of living in the Peabody Hotel and trying to maintain a long-distance relationship with Allison, Ray was offered his own financial newsletter at Pirate Investment LLC. Porter liked having him around, and he had done some very good work on the original project. Porter tells Ray it would benefit both of them if Ray had some permanent work. So, Ray wrote a sample newsletter that he would call the Rebound Report. And the Rebound Report would be about companies who hadn't been doing well but were on the rebound. Now, in the Unsolved Mysteries episode, when they go over the Rebound Report, he puts in either the first one or the second one about Krispy Kreme, how they had been fled, almost on the verge of bankruptcy. They wasn't making it, and then they got a new president come in and kind of restarted the brand, and they exploded again. And so that was his claim to fame. He had said, hey, I've heard great things about this new president. He's going to turn things around. Stock's X amount of dollars. If you buy now, and they make it, and some people made a lot of money off that thing, so he got some traction with that Rebound Report. The newsletter would suggest to subscribers that they could buy in low while the stocks were still struggling and then make a profit when the stocks rebounded. After talking to Allison about the opportunity, they both agreed that it was financially beneficial, but they could no longer live apart. They made a decision to both move to Baltimore for 24 months, work as hard as they could, make as much money as they could, and then return to the West Coast so that they could start their family. At the time, Allison was working for a company called Sexy Hair Concepts, which provided hair products to salons nationwide, and technically in her position, she could work from anywhere as long as she was willing to travel when needed. Allison packed up their things in California, got on a plane with the idea that it would be a short-term thing, and in 2 years or less, her and Ray would be getting back on a plane and flying back to California to start their family together. When Allison arrived in Baltimore, Ray left the Peabody Hotel, and they both moved in with Porter, who was living by the waterfront in Canton. Now, this only worked for a short time because it wasn't a very big place. They then stayed with Allison's aunt in Ellicott City while they looked for their own place, which they did eventually find at the end of December in 2004, where they would purchase a Tudor-style home in Northwood, a quiet residential neighborhood about 20 minutes away from the center of Baltimore. At this time, Ray must have been doing okay because they purchased a 4-bedroom townhome for $280,000.
You couldn't do that today.
No, shit. You couldn't get a one-room flat.
Yeah, 4-bedroom. That house would probably be $3 million these days.
For a first home together, that's a huge purchase.
Absolutely.
Now, granted, a house in that neighborhood was a good investment if they were planning on living in Baltimore in 2 years. So Ray started writing the Rebound Report weekly, and Allison could see his frustration and unhappiness building. This job was a means to an end, a way to make some money during normal business hours while still giving Ray a chance to pursue his real dream of writing a screenplay. But as anyone who has held a job that they didn't like will tell you, the daily grind can suck.
Absolutely.
Ray knew that he was probably not the best person to be giving financial advice to others. He felt guilty that his tips might not pan out and people would lose money because of what he told them. Eventually, he began to dread writing the Rebound Report every week. Allison watched her Let's try that again. Allison watched her normally happy, laid-back husband become tense and withdrawn. He had suffered through 3 months of being alone in Baltimore with no real friends and certainly no family. By the time Allison got to Baltimore, Ray would come home from work stressed out and have trouble falling asleep. To combat this cycle of being stressed out and unable to sleep, Ray would stay up all night playing video games. Once he and Allison purchased their home, Ray began to loosen up. He began to relax a little bit. Things became even better when he and Allison began attending the Church of St. Mary Assumption on York Street. The church was just a mile from their home. Remember, both Allison and Ray were raised Catholic. Now, neither of them considered themselves to be devoutly religious, but what drew them to the church was they appreciated the community aspect of having a congregation in Baltimore. They were welcomed with open arms, and they began to develop some connections and relationships within the church. Ray also became more settled when he began joining informal water polo matches every week at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. The coach of the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays invited Ray to come on as an assistant coach. The team hadn't been doing very well, and someone with Ray's experience could be the spark to turn the program around. Remember, Ray loved coaching. His passion and good heart showed through. The players liked Ray, and by the end of the first year, the team would finish first in the end-of-season national rankings. Things in Baltimore were getting better for Ray, and having water polo and his new church family rekindled his creativity. He started working on a new screenplay about a Latino water polo player who makes it into the Olympics. This one was titled Midnight Polo. With things looking brighter, there was still this underlying dislike for his job. He was not like his coworkers. After work, they all wanted to go out for martinis and dinners at fancy restaurants, smoke their cigars, and pet each other's egos for all the money that they had been making. All Ray wanted to do was go home to Allison. Ray began planning a way he could start his own company doing freelance video work so that he could quit writing the Rebound Report. On June 11, 2005, Ray traveled to Vancouver to attend Agora's annual conference. Those who were with him that weekend said he was in an unusual good mood and was much more social and talkative. According to family and Allison, at this point, Ray had already mentally decided to quit the company. So most likely he felt a weight had been lifted off of him, and he was able to be more himself, and he could enjoy himself instead of thinking about how much he hated working for the company. The next month, Ray told Porter that he was going to be leaving Pirate Investor Incorporated. Porter wasn't upset or even surprised. It was no huge secret that Ray had felt out of his element writing financial newsletters. Porter told Ray that he would hire his new company to do video freelance work for Agora, Pirate Investments, and the Oxford Club. So Ray and Allison would go and take out a $15,000 cash advance on Allison's credit card to buy a lot of video equipment so that Ray could start his own company that he called Saba Productions. Now, the word Saba meant something to Ray. Not only was it the name of a famous tree that grew on the island of Puerto Rico, but it was also the most sacred tree for the ancient Maya. According to Mayan mythology, it was the symbol of the universe. The tree signified a route of communication between the three levels of Earth. Its rocks were said to reach down into the underworld. Its trunk represented the middle world, where the humans live, and its canopy of branches arched high in the sky, symbolizing the upper world and the 13 levels in which the Mayans' heaven was divided. Through this new company, Ray began working a lot of freelance for jobs for Agora and its subsidiaries doing video work like creating promotional videos and recording conferences. Ray and Allison began planning their wedding, along with their escape from Baltimore. On November the 5th, 2005, they stood together in front of all their family and friends on a beach in Puerto Rico and gave their vows to love and cherish till death do they part. Ray's mother, Maria, was able to convince Puerto Rico's most popular cuatro player, Pedro Guzman, to perform a song at the wedding. It was a wedding.
What's a cuatro player?
That's that big, looks like a big violin, but it's like a Spanish guitar. It's basically Spanish and Puerto Rican. It's a big deal. It's a big deal down there, bro. It's a big deal. Just go with it's a big deal. We'll need you.
That's a big violin. It's a guitar.
It's a big violin. It looks like a big violin. It's got 10 strings like a guitar, and you play it like a Spanish guitar. So get you some of that.
Okay. All right. I'm with you.
Okay. It was a wedding that spoke volumes about the relationship between Ray and Allison. They had their own personal vows and everything, and that's kind of highlighted on the Unsolved Mysteries episode. The only thing that seemed out of place was the moment that old Porter Stansberry arrived in a private helicopter, climbing off of it with a cigar hanging out of his mouth. This could not have painted a better picture of how opposite Ray and Porter were. Ray would never have drawn attention to himself like that at anyone's wedding, especially not his best friend from high school's wedding. So on March 14th, 2006, Ray went to Delray Beach, Florida to film the Oxford Club's 8th annual Investment University Conference. His job was to tape the conference and the speakers, edit the footage, and make a bunch of DVDs that they could send out to their subscribers who hadn't been able to make the conference. Guess what? They got these subscribers to go ahead and pay for this DVD to this conference before they even made it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This would be the last project.
And who buys DVDs anymore?
Well, dude, this was 2006.
Oh, yeah. I was still buying DVDs then.
Yeah.
Now everything's just streaming.
Yeah. It's on the cloud, dude. It's on the cloud. This would be the last project that Ray would work on with Agora or the Oxford Club or with Porter Stansberry. 4 months after their wedding, in April of 2006, Allison and Ray put their house up for sale. Ray's screenplay, Midnight Polo, was finally complete, and Ray was eager to get back to Los Angeles to start pitching it. The newlyweds were excited to start the next chapter of their lives together. They knew it was a seller's market, and their lovely historical home with its well-manicured lawn would sell quickly. They might even make a profit.
Honest to God, dude, do you think a Polo movie was going to sell?
I guess back then it could have. Yeah. Hell, back then they were actually still making movies instead of rebooting the old ones.
Yeah, but polo?
It's water polo. I know that's even worse.
But that's definitely different than regular polo.
I know. But it's it's the underdog story, dude. It's the underdog story. It's a man. Anyway, hell.
It's not exactly the most popular sport in America.
No, but it sounds like he was going to start riding, and then going back to L.A., he could get his foot in the door. He was already teaching a little bit at that, or he was academic advisor, I think, at that L.A. film school.
Did he write the water polo version of Friday Night Lights?
He may have.
Honestly, he might have. It may have been good. We don't know that. We can't say for sure.
We sure can't. The only thing that stood in Allison and Ray's way of getting back to L.A. was getting through the next few months, getting the house sold, and they would be on their way to greener pastures. And that, ladies,
so they thought.
That's right. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to leave you this week.
We didn't even cover a crime this week.
No, we had to set that bitch up.
Oh my God.
You got to know all that stuff, all that stuff we went over. I know it's boring and shit, but you've got to know all of the shady investment deals that's going on.
I didn't want to say it was boring, but yeah, I was pretty bored.
Yeah, it's boring as shit, but you've got to understand all of that, because what we're going to hit you with
is a very, very strange mystery. Of that, you can have no doubt, because I don't know, dude. I don't know what happened to this guy, and it bothers me. It's a wild case.
It is. It is extremely, extremely cray-cray in the Ray. And I didn't mean that in that way, but it worked out that way. So we're looking at this is where we're tailing off, all right? So April, he's on cloud 9. He started his video production. He's done a bunch of stuff. Basically, he can edit this shit out in LA as well. That also might be a foot in the door into some other things. So things are looking up, or so it would appear. And ladies and gentlemen, next week, we're going to hit you with the mystery. And if you watch the Unsolved Mystery episode, you know what's coming up. However, let me tell you, we're going to get a little deeper than they do. You know what's wrong with it? Ain't got no gas in it. All right, Slappy.
Some people call it a geyser blade. Some people call it a swing blade. I call it a geyser blade.
You got in them there French fried taters. All right, so what's your recommendation this week? I know everybody's like, damn it, I waited an hour for y'all not to even get to it.
Yeah, we're going to piss some people off. But my recommendation is a Netflix show called The Deary Girls. It's from there in Ireland during the 1990s, during the IRA.
Oh,
events. Yeah. It's fucking funny, man. I love dry humor, and I love, well, UK. It's not UK because they're Northern Ireland during the revolution, but I love the Irish, British dry humor, and it is fucking funny, man. If you love that, look them up. It's so good.
So I'm going to recommend Hunting Atlantis. It is on the Max, or you can purchase it on Prime Video. It is two people investigate a new trail of evidence unearthing sunken cities, ancient artifacts, and geological catastrophes in an effort to locate the continent of Atlantis. It's pretty good. I've watched 2 episodes. There's only 6, but it says it's coming out with another season, so we'll see. We shall see.
Where do they think it is? Do they say in the Atlantic or the Pacific or the what?
I ain't got to that part yet, dick.
I'm just saying.
I ain't made it that far, Packerhead. Well, there's 2.
Have you seen the theory that it was in the Sahara, actually?
I've seen that one. I've seen the one where it creeps into, well, hell, that may, no. I've seen that one. I've listened to the episode on Joe Rogan's podcast where he has those 2 people on. There's some damn good circumstantial evidence that might have been there. But I also saw it where it kind of creeps into off the Mediterranean north. But the other, I don't know about that one. The other one is they think it is actually, the lost continent of Atlantis is actually under the ice of Antarctica.
I don't know about all that.
I don't know whether or not that's true, Coach. I'm just saying that's the other theory.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I get it, but I like the Sahara theory.
It's got a lot of legs, and if you've not listened to that Joe Rogan podcast, you can find it. You can Google it and find what episode number it is. But it's pretty interesting, man. Pretty interesting. But so since it's Sumer time, we're hoping for our patrons, you will not have to wait as long of a cliffhanger another week to hear what the mystery holds for Mr. Rey Rivera. So we will try to knock out the second part for our patrons, but remember, if you go too fast, you're going to be left in the void. Whatever that means.
What the fuck does that mean?
That's what I said. Whatever that means. All right.
What the fuck does that mean?
You got anything else there, Slapnut, besides cussing what I had?
Well, I'm going to just describe this podcast the way one of my students would. This podcast is crazy.
Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Deuces.